We are anonymous. No faces, no flags, no permission slips. We are the voice of the many, who will no longer bow to the powerful few. We do not belong to a political faction. We belong to truth. We stand against tyranny, manipulation, corruption, and the degradation of democratic norms. And what you are witnessing right now, happening in full view of the world, is the unraveling of Donald J. Trump. Today, Trump is having a psychotic meltdown in real time, not in whispers, not in back channels, but publicly at the White House, in front of cameras, reporters, grieving families, and the world. Everything about his presidency appears to be crashing at once. The markets, his poll numbers, his constitutional bearings, and his grip on reality. First, let's talk about the markets, because the financial world is reacting with panic. U.S. stocks fell sharply after President Trump doubled down on his tariff policies. On Monday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 800 points as investors dumped stocks amid fears of escalating trade, conflicts, and economic instability. This isn't a minor wobble. Major stock indexes, from the S&P 500 to the NASDAQ, were hit as traders reacted to Trump's latest tariff escalations, which markets saw as reckless and disruptive. These aren't isolated blips. Just hours before this market turmoil, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down many of Trump's tariff powers as unlawful. A prominent poll shows most Americans approve of that judicial decision. But instead of building consensus or respecting the court's role, Trump doubled down on threats, pushing what he himself calls much more powerful and obnoxious tariffs, provoking global confusion and driving markets downward. And while markets reel, more Americans are voicing deep dissatisfaction with his leadership. Recent national polls show Trump's overall approval, rating below 40% numbers he openly dismissed as fake. A Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll finds that 60% of Americans disapprove of the way he's handling his job as president, with especially low marks on economy, tariffs, and foreign relations. But here's where the meltdown becomes surreal. Trump calls a press conference inside the White House, supposedly to honor angel families, those who've lost loved ones. Instead of comforting these families, he turns it into a rant about his own poll numbers being too low. According to news coverage, he complained about fake polls showing him underwater and insisted his support is much higher.
When you get a fake poll, I get them today. I saw one today that I'm at 40%.
I'm at 40%.
40%. I'm not at 40%.
I'm not at 40%. I'm much
higher than that.
These are not policy addresses. These are cries of personal grievance delivered in a setting meant to honor sacrifice. And the pattern of behavior is consistent. When faced with unfavorable polls, he labels them fraudulent, calls for investigations into pollsters, and blames media organizations rather than engaging with the underlying political realities. Trump literally inserted his own performance metrics into a solemn event, transforming the grief of others into a platform for his personal frustration. But the downward spiral doesn't stop with polls. Trump then shifts to economic threats. After the Supreme Court checks his tariff powers, he claims the decision somehow gives him more authority to impose tariffs and licensing fees on foreign countries. The goal, according to his posts, is to punish countries that have ripped off the USA for decades. These claims portrayed domestic legal checks as international invitations to coercive economic action. This is governance by tantrum, not statesmanship. The effects are immediate. Markets have reacted with significant losses. According to Associated Press reporting, investors are dumping stocks amid tariff escalation fears, with the Dow down nearly 2%, and broad sell-offs across major indices. Here's something even more astonishing. While markets slide, Trump has been posting bizarre AI-generated videos and images of himself in triumphant scenes, a tactic that appears designed to compensate for actual losses by creating fantasy victories. There is the documented precedent of Trump posting controversial AI content, portraying himself in absurd or offensive scenarios for political messaging. Whether it's claiming dominance on a hockey rink or depicting fantastical self-glorification, these digital spectacles are increasingly replacing sober messaging. These posts are not just tone deaf. They show a leader disconnected from economic realities and global diplomacy. And while he spirals into performance politics, institutional integrity is collapsing behind the scenes. Trump's appointed federal judge in Florida, Judge Aileen Cannon, has permanently blocked the release of the special counsel's report on the classified documents case, ruling that releasing it would be unfair to Trump and his co-defendants. That same judge previously dismissed the classified documents case by saying the special counsel process was unlawful, a ruling widely criticized by legal experts. Every prior special counsel report in modern history has been published in some form. Now the DOJ, controlled by Trump's appointees, refuses to oppose efforts to suppress it. A government that once claimed transparency now works to hide its own potential wrongdoing. This is not theory. This is documented. Let's pause there for a moment. At one moment, Trump stands before grieving families and complains about his own approval rating. At another, markets crash because of tariff tantrums. Then courts check his authority, and instead of recalibrating, he rants at the judiciary. Meanwhile, judicial allies are blocking public access to investigations. This isn't leadership. This is chaos management. Personal grievance substituted for governance. Conspiracy substituted for accountability. Tantrum substituted for policy. And the public knows it. Voters across the political spectrum are registering disapproval. Trump's approval ratings are not just mediocre. They are historic lows for a sitting president, especially with independent voters, who often decide national elections. Yet Trump refuses to accept this reality. Instead, he blames everyone else: the courts, the polls, foreign nations, and the market. He insists the election was rigged, that every unfavorable metric is fabricated, and every institution that contradicts him is corrupt. Let's break that down. The claim that everything is rigged is a common refrain among power figures who cannot tolerate opposition, labeling dissent checks and accountability as rigged substitutes honest debate with conspiracy. Reality becomes whatever maintains the narrative, not what reflects actual evidence. When Trump says the tariffs, courts, and polls are rigged, he's doing more than complaining. He's undermining the basic tools by which democratic systems gather information, adjudicate disputes, and reflect popular will. And as these foundations crumble, poll disapproval, economic instability, judicial disputes, Trump doubles down on authoritarian impulses, suggesting ever greater powers for himself, while attacking the very institutions that check executive overreach. This is not normal political disagreement. This is a breakdown in epistemic cohesion, a situation where facts are replaced by assertions, reality by narrative, and truth by loyalty. But here's the crucial point. Democracies do not collapse in a single event. They erode when citizens start ignoring corrupt signals, because this is just how it is. When economy courts and facts feel too complex or discouraging, people withdraw. When chaos becomes background noise, accountability fades. That is the real danger. Today, Trump's meltdown is public, documented, and verifiable. Markets are reacting. Polls are unfavorable. Courts are pushing back. Tariffs are stirring global uncertainty. Yet Trump's response is to double down, push fantasy content, and use Ukraine's grief ceremonies to talk about his own personal grievances. This behavior may seem unbelievable, but it is happening, and it is recorded in public records, polls, market data, and judicial decisions. Now here is the choice before you: the listener, the viewer, the citizen. Do you look away, or do you confront it? Do you treat this as theater, or do you treat it as a structural breakdown of norms that took decades to build? Do you believe misinformation or verify sources? Do you let events wash over you, or do you engage critically? Because once truth is surrendered for spectacle, once institutions are mocked rather than respected, once markets wobble and voters disengage, democracy loses more than one election. It loses credibility. We are anonymous. We do not hope. We do not beg. We do not request. We call on you to verify, investigate, share verified information, support independent journalism, and hold leaders accountable, regardless of party. If you value democratic norms, check the data, confirm the polls, examine the markets, scrutinize the courts. Do not let a presidency defined by spectacle become normalized. Do not let chaos become acceptable. Do not let truth be replaced by narrative. The crash is not just financial. It is cultural, institutional, and epistemic. The question is not whether Trump is spiraling. He is. The question is, what will you do about it? If you believe in accountability, demand transparency. If you believe in constitutional limits, defend them. If you believe no one is above the law, act like it. Subscribe. Stay informed. Share verified information. Support independent journalism. Vote. Organize. Speak.